Welcome to Genuine Life Recovery. We're here to help you and your loved ones overcome addictions and other addiction-related mental health challenges. In this show, we dive into the physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual aspects of addiction, mental health, recovery, family dynamics, codependency, and more. You can listen on your favorite app or at jodystevens.org. Genuine Life Recovery is made possible by great friends like Joshua's Heart in memory of Joshua Brent Moore, bringing hope, love, and awareness to those afflicted by addiction, online at joshsheart.org, and Jody Stevens Productions for commercial voiceover, narration, production, MC, and public speaking, online at jodystevens.org. Hey friends, welcome back to Genuine Life Recovery. So excited you are here. Emily Hernandez joins me today, and we are talking about cyber addiction, internet addiction, a very real, very pervasive thing. Emily is an author working on her book about her experience overcoming addiction. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how internet or cyber addiction impacts families, signs to look for that you might have an addiction, or even your kids, right? And some good ways to set limits on iPhone use and gaming and things like that. Emily is also a mom, a Christian, and many other things. Emily, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
I know. I'm glad we connected. We connected through our comedy friend, Carrie Pomeroli.
Yes.
Yeah, she, when I did Morning Drive in Sacramento, she came to a lot of our events. She's so funny. Oh my gosh.
She's hilarious.
Yeah. So you were in New Mexico. We talked about that when we chatted on the phone. How's it going over there? I have never been there.
It's overcast today, so it's better today, but it's been pretty hot lately. We had maybe a week of spring. And then it went right into summer.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of like two seasons, right? Like maybe fall. Is it like winter and then summer pretty much?
We're lucky to get snow.
Yeah.
Yes, fall and fall right back into summer.
Yeah, exactly. So you're writing a book. Now, is this kind of a memoir, or is it more sort of clinical, or tell me about that? You don't have to say what it's about, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, before I was addicted, I was writing a blog, and it was basically just to encourage moms because that was something I was very passionate about. And then after COVID, I was dealing with a lot of unworthiness, and I was tired and an overly stimulated mom. I just didn't feel like I had anything left to offer anybody. So it's my addiction is a big part of the book, but it's to really encourage moms as well. Getting back into that now that I'm free.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So tell us your personal story. One of the things they say in recovery when people get up to share, like if you're at an AA meeting, they say, where were you? What did God do? And where are you now? So ABCs of your recovery journey and kind of where it started and how things progressed and then how you eventually got to the other side of it.
Well, I thought I had parenting pretty figured out. My two kids were amazing. And then 2020 hit, and my third kid, I call him my just wait kid, because everything parents told me, just wait for this, just wait for that. My husband and I were, what are people talking about? And then my third child came, and we said, oh, this is what people were trying to warn us about. And it was very difficult. And just the overstimulation of my two kids talking, and the third one being having big feelings. And so it was very easy for me to just retreat to my bathroom and just turn it all off, because I was just feeling like such a failure and not knowing what else to do.
Yeah.
So.
And so how did it progress? And then how did you eventually get help and things like that?
Well, it progressed pretty steadily the next 2 years, and it just became an extra appendage of my body.
Right.
My smartphone I just was on it constantly. And
Mm-hmm.
the day I knew I needed help, I was sitting at the breakfast table with my middle child, my 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard him whimpering. And I had my phone, of course.
Right.
And I just heard, and not even looking up, I'm, what's wrong, baby? What's wrong? And then he just burst into tears.
Was this
And
the not yet child or
no, this was my middle child.
not
This
that it
was my,
matters,
yeah,
but
no, no, my just wait child is 3,
just wait.
about to be 4. Yeah. So, exactly. Just wait.
He'll
But no,
grow up
my
to be
middle
like an
child.
engineer or something.
Right. Right. But
Anyway.
he was whimpering at the breakfast table. And I said, what's wrong, baby? And he said, everybody's always ignoring me. Everybody's always on their phone. And he was just
Oh.
completely distraught.
Uh-huh.
And, God
Wow.
had been telling me for a while, like in that, and he would be telling me, you're distracted. You're too distracted. And I would say, yeah, God, I got it. I got it. I'm going to fast soon. Don't worry.
Right.
And then that moment when my son was just in tears, I just knew I had to make a change.
Wow. So what was the addiction like for you? Like what so I being an alcoholic never really I don't even know anything about games or gaming or
Mm-hmm,
that culture. Like what
mm-hmm,
was it that drew you in?
mm-hmm,
Was it social media? People get the dopamine off the likes or what was it?
mm-hmm. Well, it was a little bit of everything, anything that could entertain me. I mean, social media was a part
Mm,
of it. And, I followed some other homeschooling moms for advice. And every
yeah.
once in a while, there'd be those reels that were trending, and
Oh
I'd get
Lord.
lost in those. And,
Yeah.
but it was mostly games, and then the games that just added to those reward centers in your brain. And they helped me feel like I was achieving something,
Mm.
and the cuter the better. I liked all of the really cute games.
What's
Those
that
are very
culture
manipulative
like?
as well.
That the gaming culture, like what's it like?
I wouldn't really consider myself as a gamer. It's just
Okay.
that's what was entertaining to me at the time. And um, just it was either the games or the social media. Or there was one day, I actually extremely downgrade. I downgraded to a flip phone after that incident with my son, because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that taking the apps off my phone and putting it in another room, turning it off, I knew it was so bad that that was not going to help.
Wow.
So, I mean, there was even a day when I was on my flip phone and just staring at my calendar. I didn't have any events on my calendar. It's
Mm-hmm.
just my body was trained to
Yeah.
just be looking at something. And so I don't know if that was partly because of the games had such a hold on
Yeah.
me. I needed to be looking at something. But I know it's pretty big. Like, I would see Facebook comments on the game groups, and people would be just either they're complaining that it's not free anymore. They'd be complaining that it wasn't so easy to do, so they need to make it easier for them to get these
Mm-hmm.
rewards. And so
It sounds like this was just your way of checking out, that it didn't really matter what it
yes,
was,
yes.
whether, because for some people it could be Netflix or whatever. Like I struggle with vegging out on crime drama, true
Mhm.
crime, I was like, stop, 10 episodes later, but it sounds like you just wanted to check out. Is that kind of what you think?
Yes, and I had the movie streaming services on my smartphone too, so
Oh gosh.
I was distracted by absolutely everything,
Wow.
because that was what I was dealing with. I just didn't. I was like, what's the point? I said, what's the point? The kitchen's going to be messy in the next five
Hmm.
minutes after I clean it. The kids aren't listening to me now. They're never going to. What's the point? So I
Right.
would just say, I deserve this. I might as well just check out.
So, how did this affect your other, aside from the kids, did you find it was affecting other areas in your daily life, responsibilities, things with maybe your husband and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had a handle on the lessons in the morning. Everything was pretty routine. We'd have breakfast, I'd teach the lessons, but once my kids started their independent work, boom, out came the smartphone. And
Mm.
my husband, there'd be so many times when he'd be talking to me, and I would say, "Huh? What'd you say?" And he would just say, "Never mind."
Mm.
And I knew I messed up, and I said, "Honey, I'm sorry. Please tell me, what were you going to say?" And he said, "Nope, never mind." And I could tell
Oh,
he was really, really hurt.
yeah.
And so that was another warning sign that I needed to stop being so distracted.
Wow. Yeah, that happens in our relationship too. It's not as bad, but yeah, my husband's more the phone guy, so a lot of times I'll do the same thing, like, just forget it, you're not listening to me anyway, you know? But so what did you do to so you got the flip phone, but that didn't really
Mm-hmm.
work. So what are
Mm-hmm.
some things that did you go to groups, meetings? What did you do to get support and help for the addiction?
Well, the flip phone was the biggest thing. And
Mhm.
just since it wasn't there at my fingertips, that was a big part of it. Um,
Yeah.
I just really wanted to understand what was happening. And so I would go to the library and I would just check out book after book after book because I wanted to know what was going on.
Mhm.
Books about dopamine and books about cyber addiction. And just there was a TED talk that I saw, and the man said very simply, "We are training ourselves to be distracted." And
Yeah.
that was so simple. That's all I needed to hear. And so ever since then, there's just been this awareness of not getting trapped into those things anymore, because I still have a desktop because I did have a
Yeah.
part-time tutoring thing that I did for a while. And so I needed that desktop. So it was still, the struggle was still kind of there. But ever since I heard
Mhm.
that phrase, "we're training ourselves to be distracted," I said, "Oh, that's what's going on." And all of my research, I mean, I'm not an expert, but just having
Yeah.
that awareness really has helped me abstain.
Mhm. Yeah, awareness is huge, when it comes to feelings, underlying issues, everything like that. I mean, obviously, we can't stop doing what we're doing when we don't know why we're doing it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that is super helpful. Wow. So what other stuff did you uncover from all the research?
Well, just basically how dopamine works,
Yeah.
and all the how the games and the social media and the way they are designed, and that's their purpose, is to keep
Yeah.
you distracted
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
well.
Well, and that dopamine, so any type of addiction targets what's called the reward pathway in your brain. And so that's
Yes.
the
Yes.
part of our brain that, eating, sex, right? Things that ensure our survival. And that's what people don't really
Mm-hmm.
understand is those types of things target that area. So you almost feel like if I don't have this, I'm going to die, right? Did you kind of feel like that? Like it becomes a need and people don't understand it because they don't understand what's happening with the dopamine system, you know?
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow. How did your faith come into play as you were looking at your addiction and recovery?
Um, like I said, God had been telling me, and I was just like putting it
Yeah.
off. I said, "I'll fast eventually." But there was a verse that has really helped me through this. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2. And I wrote it down. I want to quote it correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
Vanity of
Ecclesiastes is
vanities.
great. Oh, what
Yeah.
it sorry.
Vanity of vanities. All that is done without God's guidance is vanity, futile, meaningless, a wisp of smoke, a vapor that vanishes, merely chasing the wind. And I
Mm,
read that and I said, that's what social media is. That's what
yeah,
smartphone is. It's all vapor. It's all smoke. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
I'm chasing the wind.
yeah.
He's not going to say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant," for me scrolling. That's not going to happen.
Right, right.
So,
Wow.
yes. And at one point, when I was really trying to abstain, I had a Bible verse over one of my monitors. I think it was Proverbs 4:22. It said, "Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil."
Wow. That's good. I love
Yes.
that Ecclesiastes one. I love
Mm-hmm.
that book. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so good. Even though it's a little depressing, it's good, but
Mm-hmm.
it is true. It's,
Mm-hmm.
and in the
Yeah.
end, we're all searching for love, no matter what sort of neurosis that we get into, because love is the strongest force in the universe, but it's scary. Right. And so I think that we're
Yes.
all kind of looking for ways, right? And I don't know if you can relate to this. Like, I want to love my husband, I want to love my kids, but at the same time, I want to sort of keep my pride intact, right? And so, we do these dysfunctional things to try to meet that need, right? But it's not real. It's fake. We're you know what I mean? And until you just surrender it all, did you find that surrender process, surrendering to
Yes.
God, was helpful for you, or are you aware of that concept? Like,
Oh,
recovery, in
yes.
recovery's the big serenity thing. That's kind of a long question, but
Yes, of course, because looking back, all I can say is that it was God.
yeah.
I mean, I didn't need to have, I wasn't like going through like extreme withdrawals
Right.
or
Hmm.
anything like that, but just like looking back, it was all God. But there was one incident at about the 3 month mark when I was without, I was taking my dog for a walk. He's a big boy, he's a Kelpie Shepherd. And
Uh-huh.
I was trying to train him not to pull so much, and it was not going well. And he pulled me the entire walk.
The dog
And
was
I,
walking you. Hmm.
yes. And then
Who's
I
walking
was
who?
just, yes, I was sweaty and I was frustrated and I was trying to talk to my husband and the call dropped. And going back to T9 on the texting has
Uh-huh.
been extremely frustrating because it takes
Oh
me like
gosh.
5 minutes to send, yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so I was trying to text him and I just got so upset. I threw my phone against the wall. This was my
Hmm.
flip phone and I just threw
Yeah.
it. And I know it wasn't just the T9. I
Yeah.
wanted my games back. I wanted my connections with my family back. I wanted my music back.
Hmm.
So that was a very humbling incident. And God said, "Are you done?"
Are
And I
you done
said,
with
"Yeah,
your
I
pity
am
party?
done." Yeah. And I stayed with that flip phone with a half cracked screen for like 3 months because
Wow.
I was like, I don't deserve a replacement after that. Because
What did your husband, kids, family, what was their reaction to your recovery?
oh, they were so supportive. My husband was just going above and beyond to make sure I had my support. Like, he
Oh,
kept
that's
saying,
good.
like, after the phone incident, he said, "You need me to go get you a new one." I said, "No, not until I'm
Hmm.
ready." And he
Wow.
said, "Well, when you're ready, if you're ready to go back to a smartphone." Not that he's encouraging that, he
Yeah.
knows, but he said, "Just tell me when."
Hmm.
And I said, "It's going to be a while because until
Wow.
I know that I really have a 100% handle on it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. How
it's
long have
nice.
you been, like, sober from this, as it were?
Since October.
Oh, wow,
Hmm.
October. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
there's been
long
a,
time.
yeah. I'm not perfect. There's been a couple of
Yep.
times where the itching and the tingling have come, and I've started to scroll, and I'm like, nope, turn it off.
Well,
So,
and
yeah.
relapse is a normal part of recovery. I hate to say that, not that it's encouraged again, but it is kind of normal when those things happen. Like, what did you learn from it? Because when we're tempted to go back to that, there's usually something that kind of triggers it. Did you
Hmm.
find that you were able to see some of those triggers? Like, what particular event and things are you vulnerable to that cause you to want to go back to that?
Oh, just the fact that I still have my desktop. It's still there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's available to me if I want it. And that's what another part of my recovery. I had if I wasn't working, I had to turn my computer off.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'd be right back there. And my kids, they've definitely have been telling me. My daughter said, "Mom, when you in the morning when you were on your phone, you always were grumpy."
Mm,
And
wow.
so yeah, so I talk to them a lot about it, and I say, "Do you think it's better now, kids?" And they say, "Yeah, it's much better."
Wow. Hmm. Were there any, like, emotional triggers that you noticed? Certain stressors? that would cause
Uh,
you to want to go back to the addiction?
oh, yes. Whenever there was like a hard day,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
maybe the kids were getting frustrated or they were fighting, and maybe my daughter's like preteen on the cusp of the
Oh,
hormones, and
yeah.
my son is my active boy. He was just throwing things up in the air constantly. You just grab a stuffed animal, so throw it in the air, grab a baseball, throw it up in the air, and just
Mm-hmm.
that would be overstimulating to me. And my third, just combine all that. And if it was a hard day when maybe the schooling didn't go so well, and maybe like sometimes I wonder what some friends are up to, and
Mm-hmm.
I worry that I'm not connecting with them enough. Sometimes that makes me feel a little guilty that I'm not keeping in touch with people and things like that.
There's a saying in recovery, halt. Have you heard that? Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? So, I mean,
Oh,
are you able
yes.
to catch that and be like, okay, this is what's going on in my body,
Mm-hmm.
right? And because I think once we can recognize that, we can do alternative activities to replace that addiction. Do you have things like that you do when that feeling comes, whether it's calling a friend, going to a church meeting, going jogging, like reading a book, I don't know, whatever, things like that
Mm-hmm.
you use to replace that?
Mm-hmm. Well, there was some cross addiction first.
Mm-hmm.
There,
Yeah.
I wasn't on my phone, but I'd be on a video game, or I'd be eating a whole bunch of junk food
Right, right.
as comfort. So there were some of those at first, but then now I'm just reading more.
Oh, good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I used to love to write. I mean, I would write books and books and books when I was in middle school. It was just something that I enjoyed doing. And now it's kind of coming back. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sharing some book series with my daughter. Like, we're reading them together, and it's just
Uh-huh.
really improved our relationship. And so,
Wow.
yeah, and I've figured out I like painting. I'm not particularly
Uh-huh.
good at it, but I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
all kinds of good replacements I'm finding out are working out.
Well, and that's what it's all about, is finding ways to, enjoy life without the addiction. And then of course getting into the root causes, because obviously if we don't, then like you said, we just switch addictions, right? It's, oh, well, I'm not doing that anymore, but I've
Mm-hmm.
gained 100 pounds, or I've, now I'm going gambling, you know what I mean? Like I tended to kind of switch mine to food. And so now I'm working on that. I mean, I think it's a lifelong process, but once we understand what's going on in here, we can take proactive measures. Did you find that there were some root causes from your addiction? Any type of depression or anxiety or trauma, or things like that?
The anxiety for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And just
Yeah, that's a
it's,
big one.
these apps just work their mind numbing magic, and that's a very easy fix to that anxiety. And then, but I didn't realize that, based on all these studies that I've been looking at, that it makes the anxiety worse.
Wow.
It hasn't
Huh.
been specifically proven, but it seems to be everywhere I look for information.
Yeah. How old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm 42.
You look so much younger to me.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
I was going to ask about your generation and everything, but I'm not that much older than you. Because I would have put you at like 30, like, okay, so what are the millennials doing? But I mean, have you noticed this, like with your friends, or maybe your friends' kids, and just, the constant, like, I'm right now, if you're listening, I'm holding my phone and I'm staring at it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so weird. You go to the doctor, you're sitting in the room, and everyone's just staring at their phone, like everybody's checked out. Were your
Mm-hmm.
friends like that too? Um, you know?
I do notice, not that I'm condemning this at all. I mean,
Right, right.
I'm a mom. I have kids. I know sometimes you just need to give them that iPad
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because it's been a hard day.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but I do notice, and I do have friends that limit the screen time, and
Yeah.
I think based on our generation, I'm like kind of like right in the middle.
You
I
are.
would
Yeah.
say, like my parents, when we said we were bored, they found something for you to do.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
we had a rock garden when I was little, and they were
Uh-huh.
two different colored rocks. And my
Yeah.
father would make us go out because we'd be running around in the front yard, and they'd scatter. And he'd
Yeah.
say, "Go sort those rocks." Put all the
Uh-huh.
so that's
Wow.
what we did. We
Hmm.
so we and we watched TV a whole bunch,
Right.
but it wasn't as extreme as this whole screen time is nowadays.
Yeah, you probably did sports. You were probably outside running around, the things
Mm-hmm.
that kids do, and now you hear they're not doing a lot of those things at all. And that
Mm-hmm.
is so bad because you got to learn to be able to socialize. And I think that's the biggest challenge is not being able to deal with conflict in people and socializing and things like that, because
Mm-hmm.
that just can create a lot of problems. Did you find you were developing some issues in your connectedness and interpersonal relationships and things like that from always just kind of being on the phone and not so much out in the real world, as it were?
Yes, absolutely.
What was that like? I mean, what did that look like for you?
Uh, just like I said, just the awareness that I
Hmm.
ended up getting just made me look back and realize I was on my phone constantly. And
Hmm.
sometimes the friend I'd be having coffee with would be doing the same thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
other times I would call them and say, you know what, I'm going to try calling you now
Uh-huh.
because we don't we text all the time. And then the T9 showed up and it was so frustrating. I'm just going to call people now
Wow.
because it's gone. People
Right,
don't
right.
call each other anymore.
And then you call and they don't answer.
Yes.
I know. I am trying to get my parents to text. It's not working. I'm like, okay, they just can't do it. So, what you have is called a process addiction. So, there's substance addiction, like what I have. And then what Emily struggled with is called a process addiction. I like people to understand that this is the same thing. So, a process addiction is going to be internet, it's going to be sex, it's going to be food, it's going to be things like that. Whereas substance is obviously right drugs and alcohol, so those two things. But there are 11 criteria for a substance use disorder or an addiction. So Emily, I'm just going to ask you a few of these to illustrate to people that it's really the same thing. So if you look into the DSM, which is the psychological manual for addictions and stuff, these are some of the 11 criteria. So one of them is taking more of the substance or doing more of the activity in larger amounts than you wanted to. Did you find you were doing that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'd be on my phone for an hour and not even realize an hour had gone by.
Okay. You want to cut down or stop, but you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. No, I don't love it, but I like to, show like it's the same thing. People spending a lot of time using, or recovering from we say the substance or the thing. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Cravings and urges to use it.
Yes.
Not managing to do things that you want to do at work, at home, or at school because of the use of the internet.
Yes.
Continuing even when it causes problems in the relationship.
Yes.
So they say if you answer three or more, I won't go through the rest of them, but there's 11 of them. And so they
Mm-hmm.
say you have a problem if you answer yes to three or more. And I think
Mm-hmm.
going on track, you would have answered to all of those. So for anyone listening, yeah, I like to point that out because there's obviously a stigma around substance abuse because people using substances we do really stupid things, right? I mean, you can't necessarily get rid of that stigma, but we see from looking at that, and those 11 criteria have been research studied, things like that. And if you're at a drug rehab center, those are the 11 criteria that they're going to ask you. So, I mean, we can see that this is really the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Pretty crazy. What was your reaction to that? No surprise, or?
No surprise.
Mm.
But
Had you ever read those before?
no, I hadn't, but that certainly gives me more of a wake up call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you do any kind of, have you ever read any of the 12 steps or anything like that?
No.
Oh, okay. That might be cool. That might be fun for you to check out. What advice would you give to someone who's currently struggling with an internet or cyber addiction?
I would tell them that just really evaluate what kind of things you're being bombarded with on the internet. Just reevaluate, do they have real value,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
are they just something that doesn't matter? I would tell them, I wrote a little note here.
I love that concept, though. I forget who it was, like some person, ministry, like ex-football player, and was talking about how we spend so much time focusing on things that don't matter,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of stuff doesn't matter. Like TikTok.
No,
I
it
mean,
doesn't.
I think there's some healthy, like looking at the puppies and stuff, like that's kind of healthy, like at night, sometimes I'll look at little puppies and it makes me happy. And
Mm-hmm.
the little rabbits on TikTok, they have these rabbits eating stuff. And, oh, it's so cute. But
Yes, I mean
even that, you
that's
can just go
yes,
too far. It's like, okay,
right.
it's been a half an hour. I'm done with the puppies. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, and
anyway,
there's some good things on there. I mean, I was looking at some faith-based influencers as well, and I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there's value in that, absolutely. But like I was saying earlier, like the more anxiety it causes. I mean, Jesus said, "Can worry add 1 minute to your life?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if all of this stuff, if you're addicted, most likely that anxiety is there. And I
Hmm.
mean, if it's going to cause more worry, why do it? It's not going to add anything to your life.
Right, right. You were looking at your notes, you were gonna say something? Or
Yeah,
was
that's
that
what I
it?
was looking at. That was it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because we check out to disconnect, but really what lowers the anxiety, and you may have found this, is the actual connection that we're
Hmm.
trying to get away from. Like once you
Right.
start to connect with the family and the kids more deeply, that
Yes.
actually helps the anxiety. So it's
Yes,
almost
it
like we're doing
does.
the opposite. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just try little limits. Try giving
Hmm.
yourself a little bit of limited time. And I think some phones, like, they show you how much time you're spending
Yeah, they do.
on the
They do.
internet. So like just look at that and see how that makes you feel. So
Hmm. Hmm.
sometimes just that little visual will help.
Right. Yeah. What kind of like boundaries do you put on yourself? Like you said, you have to turn the computer off. You've got the flip phone. Anything else?
Uh, no, not really. I mean, we have a family tablet, but it's a family tablet. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
belong to anybody, but we just use it so the kids can talk to their grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the main reason for it. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, the kids have to ask before they use any kind of technology. But those are the two basic limits for me. I have the flip phone. It's not at my fingertips. I keep the computer off, and that's all the things that are left in the house. And the for the TV and the video games, they just don't have a hold on me anymore. That's not a cross
Mm.
addiction kind of thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all
Right.
God. God, He is making me focus on other things, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading the Word more, and just like the verses are jumping out at me, and they're comforting me more than ever before.
Wow. So yeah, I was going to ask you how your relationship with the Lord has changed through this. Sounds like it's gotten a lot deeper.
Yes, it has. Absolutely, it
Mm.
has.
That's awesome. Um, so you said you had a preteen, right?
Hmm.
How are the kids with this? Do you see signs that they're struggling with the internet use and stuff like that?
Not so much just because
Oh,
they
that's
don't
good.
have their own personal devices,
Uh-huh.
but like I said, when I was on the computer, still struggling, I mean, they're not stupid. They
Right.
knew I was on the computer doing nothing. And, she would come in and she'd say, anything new on Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Can we see? Can we see? And
Right.
that was another red flag. I was like, okay, they're
Yeah.
starting to want to scroll also. So that was
Mm-hmm.
another factor that I said, okay. And they don't really struggle with it just because of that. I mean, they want to play video games and they want to watch
Yeah.
movies, but we've they've got a pretty good handle on it. And if we take it away when they get in trouble, they're disappointed, like I was when I was a kid. But it's
Yeah.
not like that's my lifeblood, mom. What are you
Right,
doing?
right. How do you talk about the addiction with your kids? Like, so let's say like maybe advice for other moms to discuss this with their children. What would be some suggestions?
I would just suggest, just like I said, if they want to use a device, make sure that they ask for it first. Don't make it so that like they can just grab it whenever they want. If you want to talk to your kids about it, um, based on age and based on your comfort level, I mean, there's some harmful content out there,
Right?
and uh, kids are very transparent. Like you can be honest with them, and you can tell them this is a luxury. This is something that is not really what's the word I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really add to your life.
Right?
Um, so I would
Yeah.
just suggest just have boundaries, have limits.
And if what would be maybe do you think some signs for a mom or dad to look for that their kid might be developing an unhealthy relationship with the internet, the video games, things like that?
Hmm. I would say look for any kind of mood shifts,
Yeah.
any attitude that is not familiar to you. I would say look out for that. If they just go in their room and shut the door and you don't know
Yeah.
what's going on, that's probably a red flag.
Yeah. Well, and it's scary because now kids are getting drugs on Snapchat and things like that, and they'll like deliver it to your door. I mean,
I
it's
did not
crazy.
know that.
Hmm.
Oh my
Hmm.
goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've had a couple moms on who lost their kids to fentanyl. Like one
Oh,
mom, he ordered a Xanax, but they're not Xanax. They're not the drugs that they say they are. They're all fentanyl. So he ordered a Xanax and he died. And then another guy got a
oh
pill online
no.
and it had enough fentanyl to kill 5 people. So it was more like so it's poisoning. So some kids are being literally being poisoned when they get this stuff. And then they can order it on Snapchat and then it like disappears. And
Hmm.
then people will just deliver it right to your house. It's insane.
Oh my
So
goodness.
something else to talk to your kids
Hmm.
about.
I
you
would
know?
tell the parents just be present.
Yeah.
If this has taught
Yeah.
me anything, it's realizing that I haven't been present enough, and being more present has just helped our family dynamic just grow better and
Hmm.
better.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that maybe, explaining that they're not going to get in trouble if they're honest. I think we always think if I bring this up or say this, I'm going to get in trouble. So then we don't, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share about your journey or any additional like resources or recommendations or anything that we might have missed? I know I sent you a list of questions and we kind of got to some of them and some of them we didn't, but
Oh no, it's been great. I just reiterate that I am not perfect. I'm still struggling.
yeah.
Um, we were in the mountains a couple of weekends ago, and we were in the middle of a badminton game, and I looked at what time it was. Why did I do that? I'm in the middle of a vacation with my family, and I just wanted to know what time it was. And I had just got there.
Right.
The
Yeah.
vacation had just started. So like there's still some things that are just still kind of sticking around. And I'm
Yeah.
not perfect by any means. And it took a lot of fasting and praying to move from obsession to indifference about the
Mm-hmm.
internet. It took a lot of that. And
Wow.
there was a book that was written in the 1970s called The Plug-in Drug,
Mm.
and they
Oh.
revised it in 2000
Mm-hmm.
to talk about video games and computer. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they revised it again
Wow.
for the social media addiction. So if you're a parent, I highly recommend that book. There's a lot
Wow.
of stuff about how it affects child development and things like that. And for another book that I would recommend, it was called Dopamine: Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence, and that's by Dr. Anna Lembke.
Uh-huh.
And there was a lot of information about how the brain works and how the reward centers work, and the pain and the pleasure of it that really helped me
Mm-hmm.
overcome. So that was a really good recommendation as well. So,
Yeah, because we have to retrain our brain. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? And like have you
Yes.
found out like, okay, your brain is reacting differently. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had to retrain my body as well because,
Right.
like I said, because my third child, I wasn't addicted with the other two.
Mm-hmm.
We had
Oh. Mm-hmm.
playtime, they developed healthily, and it made me realize, I said, oh my gosh, I am not giving the same amount of time to this third child because of my addiction. And so that's another thing. I had to retrain myself because I would sit down to play with him, and I didn't have anything in my hands. I wasn't, so it was a very weird feeling.
Mm. And he was the kid that probably needed it the most.
Oh yes,
You know
quality
what I
time
mean?
is definitely his love language. So
Oh,
it's been a process, but I just had to retrain my body not to be fidgety and to
yes.
give him attention, because I would
Mm-hmm.
always be on the floor
Mm-hmm.
turning on the
Yeah,
music.
I
Like,
think,
oh, I wonder if
and
anybody messaged me. I'm just gonna keep looking.
right. Yeah, it's a discipline, and I think it's, they say it's like peeling back layers of an onion, more will be revealed, and it's that whole, the Bible talks about sanctification, where like when we're saved, it's instantaneous, but then we spend this lifetime like trying to get past the world. Because you still got to do, we still have to live in this world, and
Yes.
so it's every day I think, he teaches us more stuff, but I do you feel that recovery is just really a lifelong journey?
So far, I certainly do. Yes. I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing new. I mean, we're the
Yeah.
rich man. We're the rich man who was sad to give away his possessions.
Uh-huh.
We're the Israelites who wanted to go back to Egypt.
Uh-huh.
You know, when we have that addiction, it just has that hold on us, and recovery is just one
Yeah.
day at a time.
Yeah,
One day at a
absolutely.
time.
Wow. Well, Emily, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your journey, your experience, strength, and hope, as they say.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Good luck on your book. Do you know what it's going to be called yet?
Unplugged and Unchained: How God
Ooh.
Saved Me from My Social Media Addiction.
Oh, I love that. And do you know when it's going to come out, or how far along are you?
Oh, I'm not far along at all. It's all outlined. Just got to put the
Good.
meat in.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing the same thing. I'm on chapter 3, like we talked about. It's, oh my gosh, it's a process.
You're ahead of me.
Oh, this will be really easy. And then you sit down and you're like, whoa, you know.
For
So
sure. For sure.
it is. So it's a journey. All right, Emily, is there a way people can connect with you if they want some encouragement or things like that? Do you have, well, I shouldn't probably ask you if you have a website because
I don't have a website as yet. I mean, I am planning to relaunch the blog that I was writing before COVID hit.
Oh,
I am
cool.
planning to
Okay.
relaunch that at some point, and it's momofsorts.com. It's not up yet, but
Cool.
And I do have social media, but I'm abstaining.
No, yeah.
But just if you're listening and need encouragement, God is your source.
Yeah.
God is your source.
Amen. All right. Emily, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun.
Thank you so much, friends, for listening to Genuine Life Recovery, playing on your favorite app or on my website at jodystevens.org. It's JODIESTEVENS, jodystevens.org. There you can check out my podcast, blog, recovery coaching info, speaking, and more. Check it out.